Yes, and Gigi, if you would like to walk us through your professional journey and how you got to where you are, something about your background, we'd love to hear from you.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Um, Growing up, I heard stories about my great aunt, Bessie Coleman, through my mother and grandmother. Um, they would tell me, that Bessie was such a, well, determined type of person, individual, and she didn't take no for an answer. My mother had that same get up and go as Aunt Bessie. She worked for the post office for over 25 years before she retired. And she became a supervisor. She was always an acting supervisor, but they made her a supervisor. And before she retired, she petitioned a postage stamp in Bessie Coleman's honor in 1995. She also got a street named after her with the help of people from the DeSable Museum, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, Ramon Price, who was Mayor Harold Washington's brother, and other family and friends. And the street is named Bessie Coleman Drive, and it was Old Man Hive Drive, which led into O'Hare Airport. So I'm just so happy for that. Um, People would come to the house and interview my granny and my mother, and I really didn't think much of it. I thought that was normal that people would come to people's house and interview their family members, but I guess it wasn't normal. I remember Jerry Taft would come to the house. He used to be on the weatherman for Channel 7 News, and he would just be talking to my mother, my granny, and it was just amazing. And I thought it was normal for the family to all get together on her anniversary of her death, and we'd go to the gravesite. Vera Jean Ramsey and my other cousins and family and friends, and the airplanes did a formation, and the Tuskegee Airmen and Rufus Hunt, who he restarted the flyover of Bessie Coleman's grave, and it was just wonderful. They would drop flowers, and I would run when I was little and go get the flowers, and it was just a beautiful thing. And I just heard so many stories about Bessie, and I just thank my family for sharing those stories with me and encouraging me to keep Bessie Coleman's legacy alive, because it's so important for people to know the history of African Americans in this country and what they did for society.
Absolutely. And what about your one woman show, Gigi? Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, yeah. Well, my one woman show, I decided to do that in 2013. And that was to tell people about Bessie Coleman. I knew it was a lot of people telling her story, like Sandra Campbell. She was wonderful. Growing up, I would see her do the show, and different people all over would sometimes tell her story. But I thought it would be special if someone in her family, I guess myself, since I wrote the little script, somebody like Dr. Chamberlain always says, you have the DNA. And people want to hear it from the family member, It makes a difference, makes them feel like they're a part of, they feel like they're a part of the person when they see someone who's related to the person. And so I took up my mother's bandwagon when she passed, and I started the show. And I remember the questions that I asked my mother when I incorporated the show, and what my grandmother was saying and what other people said. Doris Rich, she wrote a book about Bessie Coleman. And of course, Eloise Patterson, who was Bessie Coleman's sister, I read her book, and I intertwined all these stories and things to do my one woman show. So I dress in character like I am, and I tell her story. So I go all over the country. I've been to most of the air and space museums, the schools, libraries, and my journey is to go to. Well, I went to Paris, France, and I wore my outfit, and I didn't tell her story, but I just felt that I was a part of her being over there in Paris. So that was a wonderful thing.
What a wonderful experience it has been for you, I'm sure. And earlier I mentioned the Bessie Coleman Aviation All-Stars organization. So I'd love for you to walk us through how that got started and what it's about.
Well, the Bessie Coleman Aviation All-Star. I started that in 2013 too. I think I started everything in 2013. That must have been my magic number or
That was your
year.
year.
Yeah. And I started the one woman show, and then my husband was like, well, why don't you do an aviation program? I said, well, I don't know. I'm not really a pilot. And he said, well, you don't have to be a pilot to do a program. You can hire people and have a staff, So that's what I did. I hired professional pilots, aeronautical engineer, Mr. William Cummings, and I also hired Mr. Derek Henry, and he's an aviation instructor. He's been an instructor for the New York school system for over 25 years. And Barbara Jackson, she was an educator, very good with STEM and electronics and all that YouTube stuff, which I wasn't really good at. And so we came up with the program. So what I did, I taught the history of aviation, how airplanes started with the Wright Brothers and paper balloons. And then I started talking about the history of African Americans in aviation, not just about Bessie, but other African Americans and their journey and their struggle, and other non-African American minorities who have went into the field of aviation. And then after we talked about the history, the guys would talk about the four forces of flight, what makes airplanes fly, And then we talked about careers. So that's where I came back in, and I would look up various careers that you could go into in aviation and let the students know. And then we would take the kids on field trips. So we go to the air traffic control tower in DePage, the air traffic control tower at Midway Airport. We took trips with American Airlines, United, Southwest. Everybody was so accommodating. Salon Corporation, because we want the kids to see, what does a corporate pilot do, not just a commercial pilot. We want to tell them about all the different areas, that they could go into. Then we had guest speakers come in and talk from the FAA and different other organizations, and so they could see people of their own ethnic background that were in aviation. And I remember a time we had Captain Raspberry. He's been so helpful. He's come in and helped teach the class, and it just wonderful instructors. And then we had one pilot. My brain is just, I can't think his name, but it'll come to me. But he came in and he showed about how to dress, and your appearance, it means so much. And so he came in, and some of the young men, they don't have fathers and stuff in the homes, because we work with disadvantaged youth and kids from different certain areas of the city. And he showed them how to put on a tie. And they were like so thrilled just to get that experience. And I thought it meant so much. Captain Vegas, it came to me, Captain Vegas from American Airlines. And it was just such a wonderful experience for the kids. And to see all these people, we have people from all over to come in. We do virtual training. We had the kids get their Part 107 drone certification. We work with a program with kids in Oakland, California. We've worked with Operation Push. We've worked with St. Sabina, Father Flager's Church, and other organizations. Worked with some people over in Gary. It's just been wonderful.
Lovely, excellent. So for those of us who aren't in Chicago, I heard you mention virtual trainings. How can we stay in touch with you and the aviation organization? There's a newsletter.
Oh, yes. So we have a newsletter, and this is our newsletter. We just developed our newsletter. We have a website, but this newsletter just is going to start showing what we're doing. So right now, we partnered with Barbie, which we are so ecstatic about that. They have been so wonderful in helping us not only get Bessie out there, but letting other people know about our program and how they can inspire to help make a difference in these young people's lives. And so these are some of the field trips we went on. And also, these are some of the students. Ruth Callett, she was in our aviation program. Now she's in college and she's making a difference. She had an internship at Delta Airlines this summer, and she's just doing great things. Now she's going to have an intern at Southwest Airlines that's coming up. Um, Also, Ronald Gray, he did an internship at Parks University, and that's where Ruth attends. We have another girl, she went to Ruth Weatherden's program. Um, Katie, I'm just so happy for her. And she did so great that they want her to come to do the solo part of Luke Weathers' program this summer. We have Miss Davis. She's going to be in the program. Well, she's in the program and she's going to Embry-Riddle this summer to do an internship. So we're getting the kids internship, exposure. It's just a wonderful thing. And this is my little one-woman show where I took a picture in Poplar Grove. Thank you so much for that picture, Poplar Grove. They had me stand on the airplane just like Bessie Coleman. And I tell you, that was a feat. One of my other big feats was when I was in Oshkosh. I did my show to celebrate Aunt Bessie's 100th anniversary. And that was amazing. I flew in a Jenny biplane, just like Bessie flew. And it's nowhere to hold on to. It was an open cockpit. I couldn't hear anything. But what I did feel was what Aunt Bessie felt. I felt freedom, freedom up there in the sky. I can imagine how she felt because she said she couldn't get any freedom on the ground.
That is
And
remarkable.
American Airlines.
That is remarkable. What a remarkable story. Thank you so much for sharing. The All-Stars truly are All-Stars. They're doing fantastic things. So again, yes, so we have a donation page here. So could you tell us more about how we can donate? Are we going to donate on your website?
Yes, you can donate on our website, www.bessiecoleman-aviation-allstars.org.
Wonderful. So we're going to drop that link in the chat for you all if you'd like to make a donation, if you'd like to stay in touch. Clearly, again, the All-Stars are doing some amazing things, and they're reminding me so much of Girls Right Now because we're all about youth and creating opportunity, building community. So let's build community with the All-Stars as well. So now we can do some writing. Actually, before we go on to writing, Gigi, if you would like to talk a little bit more about the Bessie Coleman doll. I think you
Oh my
even
God.
have your own doll.
What a doll. Here is my baby. Here's my baby.
Look
I'm
at
so
that.
happy. Oh, my family's happy too. I mean, can you imagine going in the store and looking up and you see a family member in the store resembling a Barbie doll? Man, Barbie Inspiring Women series. It's an ongoing doll line that pays tribute to female role models. And I am just so proud that they nominated Bessie Coleman this year for the historical of her historical accomplishments of being the first African American, Native American woman to get her international pilot license in the world. 2 years before Amelia Earhart now. That was in 1921. And my family, we are so thankful. Virgin Ramsey, Mary Stallworth, Gilda Mobley, June Ellis, and my friends and my late friend who just passed. She was our secretary, Gloria Blaylock. She always wanted something wonderful to happen for us, for the family, because she believed in the kids. She was an educator and she thought education and teaching the kids is wonderful. And that's what Mattel has done. It has opened up the doors for youth to think about careers in aviation and learn the history of Bessie Coleman. They have inspired our young people to don't take no for an answer, and that the sky is not the limit. You could do whatever you want to in life.
And we're going to do some writing. So we have 2 writing exercises for you tonight. And for the first, I'd like you to think about who is someone in your life that you admire. And what we'll do is write a letter to them, letting them know what you see in them. So think about someone you admire in your life and think about writing a letter to them. And we're going to write for 5 minutes. Okay, so feel free to turn your cameras off or maybe just take 5 minutes to think if you don't want to write. But we will reconvene and we will share. Okay, so we can move on to our next writing exercise. All righty. So for our second writing exercise, we're going to create a monologue from the perspective of the recipient of your letter. So think about how would they tell their own story, sort of like the one woman show when Gigi is speaking in the voice of Bessie. So take 5 minutes to write a monologue from the perspective of the recipient of your letter. Okay, and we will come back in 5. So we do have a few announcements, but before we get to those, here's a way to stay connected because we're all about community here at Girls Right Now. So we have Gigi's email address here. It is Gigi, all lowercase, at flatweb.com. So give her a shout sometimes if you'd like to get in touch, or if you want some more information about the Aviation All-Stars, or if you'd like to see the One Woman Show. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you all. And stay in touch with us on socials. We are at Girls Right Now on all social media platforms. I hope to see you all very soon. Stay warm and enjoy the rest of your Friday.
Thank you. Au revoir.